Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Ungimmicked. We are very excited to finally put this project on the ground. Ungimmicked is the podcast where we're going to be talking about all things magic, non-magical. And we are joined by our full crew today. We have Alex Moreau, we have Connor McDonald, Matthew O'Neill, Sanjeev Vinod, and I am your host, Gonçalo Souza. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you boys.
I'm so excited. This is going to be great.
Yeah, excited to get this on the ground. Have some interesting topics to cover.
So let's, it is our first ever, so I want to give you all 1 minute to introduce yourselves. So let's start with Alex.
Okay, well, hey everyone. My name's Alex. I've been doing magic basically forever. I really practiced sleight of hand for 15 years before realizing that I wasn't doing magic, and then took a really deep stance and try to work on the more artisty things. On the side, I'm also a researcher and an avid rugby player. That is me. Hell yeah.
Rugby. I did not know you play rugby.
Really? I love
Dude,
rugby.
We're learning new things. We're learning new things every day. Connor, give us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Connor, and I'm super happy to be here. Such lovely gentlemen we're working with. I've been doing magic for a few years, primarily stage and parlor magic, but I'm really just excited to have some good conversations about some magic.
Thank you, Connor. Matthew.
Stuff. Yes. All right. My name's Matt. I am enthusiastic 24/7. I love this. I haven't really been doing magic that long, but I just dove into it, became obsessed, and worked my ass off to be the best version of myself I can be. So this really makes me really happy to be here.
I love how you two just introduce yourself with omitting the fact that you are junior members of the world's most prestigious society of magic. Come on.
That's true.
This really speaks to the standard of the speakers we have here.
That's true. 4 out of the 5 of us are junior members at the Magic Castle. Alex, unfortunately, is too old, but he's still a savage magician. He's still a savage.
Well, our third member is Sanjeev. Sanjeev, give us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sir. Hello, boys. My name is Sanjeev Vinod. I've been doing magic for a few years now, and I'm Indian.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it.
That's all we need to know.
Right.
Nothing else. We don't need to.
Okay,
No, you can leave it at that. That's all we needed to know. Thank you.
I think it summarizes the close-up guy, though. Yeah, I study at Berkeley now. I research in linguistics and psychology, especially the psycholinguistics of magic. I like public speaking. I used to be competitive in that. I like dancing. I make bad jokes. I'm not enthusiastic 24/7, but I really like the guys here, so I'm looking forward to a good time.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Well, my name is Gonçalo. I am super excited to be doing this. We've been working on this project nonstop for about a month and a half, and we were finally getting to see it come to life. I am the 5th member of this crew, the 4th member of this crew that is a junior at the Magic Castle. And let's just dive into this podcast because we're going to start with our first ever segment, our 1 minute rec, and it's going to be presented by Sanjeev.
Thank you, Gonzalo. So usually the 1 minute rec is a segment where we, the 5 of us, bring either a product or a certain event, a certain download, a certain book that we believe that you guys would enjoy, would get a lot of useful insight from. Today, I'm going to try to broaden it a little bit, and rather than a specific product, I'm going to offer a person. This is Derek Delgadio, and just reading about him has changed a lot about how I view magic. So for some insight, he is not exactly a magician. He's more an artist and a performer. And the shows he put on, the reviews are incredible. And he has a very few products on the market, but there are some super valuable ones as well. And he also has a little segment on storytelling online that I highly recommend because he puts a lot of thoughts into words about magic that I think a lot of us have difficulty getting across. I definitely did. And he phrases them just so simply. And he also has a download called A Secret Has Two Faces, along with Glenn Kino, which has some incredible thoughts on the art side of magic. So if you guys are looking to just broaden your influences, broaden your approach to magic, take a different approach to what you're trying to offer to your audience, I think Derek Delgadio is just absolutely incredible person to study.
Yeah, I could not have chosen a better person to start talking in our podcast than Eric Delgadio. Absolutely. What a gentleman, we should say. What a gentleman. Well, thank you, Sanjeev, for that recommendation. We are moving on to our main topic of the day, our big discussion. Today, we will be talking about the public's perception of magic. And to introduce that for us, we have Matthew O'Neill.
All right. So, interesting thought I had is that, people kind of perceive magic as sort of a trick to be figured out instead of really a mystery to enjoy, which is sort of what we want. Unfortunately, it's kind of brought forth by bad magicians who either treat it or present it as that. Uh, because of magic in popular culture and media, magic is actually kind of cool. It has a sort of mysterious vibe and gives a paradoxical performance where a seemingly ordinary person can do pretty extraordinary things. On the other side, though, you have the cringy, the kid-esque magic, or like really outdated magic, like a top hat, gloves, cape, wand. The magician who tries too hard, or like the one with the overly like super serious attitude that kind of comes off as corny. So I have a question for y'all is what do you guys think we can do as performers to keep people's standard of magic high, or if it's low, to raise it beyond just Alex is going to say, just do good magic.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Although it does help.
It does help, that's true.
Yeah, doing good magic does solve a lot of the problems here. But
Well, you know what? I'm gonna start, and with an opinion that I think nobody's gonna be surprised I have is I think we brought this to ourselves. I think that there's a reason the public perception of magic is bad is that we've been feeding laymen very mediocre magic for some time. Us as magicians, we have standards like Derek Delgadio, another amazing performance. We know about all the FISM winners, all the guys that have done extraordinary lectures and conventions. But the average person is probably going to see only a couple of magicians in their lives. And chances are, if you pick a couple of magicians at random that you're going to see and stumble upon across your life, chances are you're not going to meet Derek Delgadio.
And I don't think we're holding ourselves to high enough standards that people, when they see an average magician, they go, wow, this guy's an artist.
I think Alex brought up a really good point. Again, yes, I don't like the public perception of magic. I think it's unfortunate and makes us have almost an obstacle to cross before we even start talking. But 100%, I think it was brought on by us. And I think one of the reasons for that is magic is one of those art forms, uniquely like this compared to other art forms, where you can be bad and people still react really well. The reactions are still very impressive because magic at its core is something that surprises you, something that intends to fool you. And so magic with absolutely no thought to presentation, no thought to motivation, no thought to justification can still cause someone to go, oh, wow, you're really good at magic. And there's two issues with that. One, it makes the performer feel, okay, I've attained that standard. And it almost makes us feel like we can stagnate at that point. We don't need to improve. And second, it sets that as the bar for really good at magic. Con, what do you think?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great point. That I want to definitely stay on topic there. I just want to touch on something Alex was saying that like most people usually see kids party magicians who are doing things to suit the younger audience, and majority of people don't have the opportunity to go to a place like the Magic Castle where magic, that's where it lives and that's where it grows and develops and turns into the art form that we see it as. So, and people see David Blaine on TV, and that's the very serious magic. So it's just kind of, like I said, it's like advertising. It's what they see.
That's true. We also tend to forget that, I mean, it's really easy to talk about magic as a whole because once again, we're very exposed to that. But magic has so many facets. I mean, would you compare a graffiti artist to just sort of your mainstream painter or the garage painter or to a person that does, expos which are meant to sort of question your perception of art? Well, there's this whole spectrum and people are aware of it when you're talking about painters. I don't believe people have much of a spectrum when talking about magicians. I think to people, you have people that do it as a hobby, and then there's David Blaine, David Copperfield, right? I think it's very hard for people to understand the spectrum of, how serious you are and what kind of gigs you do. So people, when they see a magician, kind of automatically assume you're a hobbyist if they don't see you on TV.
I think even then, the one standard that you have is you have either the David Blaine or whatever, the TV magician, and then you have your uncle's card tricks. There's it doesn't vary from that. And I just had an experience a couple of days ago where I did a performance, and when I finished, somebody said, "Oh, I was just expecting, is this your card?" And it hurt a little bit. Well, it was comforting to know that I was able to impress those people and give them something different to think about in Magic. But at the same time, their expectations were so low that I would just, is this your card? And it hurt a little bit as an entertainer and as a magician.
Well, but also think about this, because maybe this is just personal experience. Maybe this is just the way I come off. I have no idea. But going to people and then they say, "What is your hobbies?" "Oh, I'm a magician." Some people, they're like, "Whoa, that's so cool. I've never met a magician before. Wait a minute." Like Chris Angel, right? That's sort of the meme going around. But
Oh,
yeah, right? Well, I mean, that's what, he's super famous. That's what people think. They'll say Blaine Copperfield, Chris Angel. Some people will say other, like Willman has a show. Some people saw that.
Siegfried Roy.
Yeah, there you go, right? So it almost has like a mysterious vibe, and if they don't know whether you'll be good or not, if you have like charisma to where they think you could be good, that's also kind of intriguing.
Definitely. We're also thinking of this in a very Americano-centric vision, because here, I mean, Magic has a pretty good life. I mean, originally, I'm from France, and in France, we really just have that one magician does weekly appearances on TV, and then, like laymen, just know that one guy. Here in the U.S., people know about Copperfield, people know about the Vegas strip shows. Most people, I mean, a significant amount of people have heard about the Magic Castle, or even some on the East Coast about the Chicago Magic Lounge, and lots of these amazing places. So I think the U.S. has it pretty good, and just the sheer density of magic places with renown kind of forges people's opinion in a different fashion. What do you guys think?
I Great point, dude. Great point. I grew up in India, and I've witnessed almost a revolution of close-up magicians, of street magicians now, but they have to fight against centuries of this. A magician's a snake charmer. A magician does the Indian rope trick. A magician wears like barely any clothes and just like sits on street corners and levitates. And compared to that, it does seem like we really have it good in America because we get so much exposure with shows. Penn and Telepoulos, I think, is doing a lot of great things for Magic because it's raising the standard, right? It's exposing people to, okay, this is what great Magic looks like. And now if you don't at least try to approach that for people who are watching it, then they're like, okay, and now they're starting to get that spectrum of where good Magic is and where the rest of Magic is.
It is that exposure that creates a diversity in the Magic culture. Otherwise, you do conform to one form, whether good or bad. That's another discussion. But the fact that you have exposure and you have people talking about it will create the spectrum. Otherwise, you could fall under one what's it called, under one side of the spectrum, which is great, and your country or your section of the world is only known for this part of Magic, but it's amazing. Or perhaps the most likely, because there's the part of the spectrum that's good is smaller than the part of the spectrum that's bad, you'll only have this tiny bit that's probably not very good, but that's all that you have. When you have exposure like you have in the United States and people know about Magic, there are many places to see Magic. People know of Vegas, and every hotel will have a different Magic show, will have different things available. It will create that drive in people to learn more and to research more when they're getting into the art.
There's two kinds of exposure, you know? We have the like exposing ourselves as performers, but then when this gets more popular, you have the exposure on YouTube where people are revealing stuff, that kind of exposure. And so it's, I don't want to call it a double-edged sword, but it's sort of in that range of the bigger magic gets. So we don't know if it's necessarily bigger we want it to get, as long as the standards sort of get raised here. I think Alex might have made a point on that.
Yeah, there's something else I want to touch on is that, as we said, like people get their opinion of Magic very quickly. And if what that entails is that you get also your opinion of Magic very young. And when you're really young, you're not going to appreciate a Delgado performance. I'm just going to keep getting back to this example because Sanjeev brought it up.
It is a perfect example.
Exactly, it is. When you're a kid, like what do you know about Magic? You either know a TV show, a magician's birthday party. Actually, I'm just going to stop there. It's one of those two. And so when you're young and forging that image, you're a lot more likely to be exposed to the, I don't want to call it bad because realistically it's not, it's people trying to make a living and just approach things from a different perspective. but you're more exposed to a less artsy style of magic. So people sort of go, okay, this is what a magician is to me. And so breaking that standard is really hard if they're not around places like the castle and things like that. And obviously when you're a kid, you're also curious. And a lot of, birthday party magicians aren't going to do very artsy stuff. And so you're like, okay, this is about the trick. I'm a kid. I want to know how it's done. Well, pop YouTube, card trick reveal or whatever TV show trick reveal. So I think all comes from this very quick image people make of us.
It's you
I mean,
touched
do you
on
think the YouTube? Oh, Gonzalo, go ahead.
no, please, because I might take it somewhere else.
I just had a question for Alex. I mean, and Matt, actually, the YouTube exposure that you guys brought up, do you think it does improve the public perception of magic? Because that is a take that exposure raises the bar, because a stance is that we cannot now resort to those, I guess, simpler, just trick things. We have to charm with other things like presentation, which we should have had in the first place anyway.
It gets more people into it, that's for sure. More people doesn't necessarily raise the bar because, you have to, I don't want to compare people to inanimate objects, but you have to like go through a lot before you find a gem. So that'll bring more crazy gems, but that also has just the sheer numbers of people. You have more people who aren't going to be really striving to improve, like those who do become Delgado, Darren Brown, etc.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about YouTube exposure, but you know what? It's inevitable. So your opinion really only matters to yourself, to a certain extent, obviously, unless you have influence on the community. And you know what? It's around there. And in a lecture recently, I heard somebody say, hey, you know what? This has the added benefit. It was a great routine. I don't remember who, I'm so sorry, said, and you know what? This isn't going to be the sort of thing revealed on YouTube because the intricate methods can come together. So what get revealed on YouTube is things that have like one principle. So if you really try to combat that actively, I think you can avoid the problem.
Yeah, these are some really good points. It really does just depend on what people see first at what age. Like for me, I definitely started on YouTube, and I started by seeing a video of Matt Franco. But when you think of everyone's like come up story, right, of how they got into magic, they think of the big names that they saw on TV. They saw like real, genuine, awesome is like a super weird word, but it's good magic, right? For the people that see kids parties and they see this kid magician doing silly tricks, they're not inspired to go learn and go on YouTube and search for the good magic. Does that make sense?
It's kind of funny.
They're not inspired. They're not inspired to learn. They're inspired to just know.
That's true.
That is a difference.
Very sort of unrelated point. Matt Franco is the only other person I know who's also Matt with one T.
With one T?
Yeah.
And we're both magicians. Isn't that crazy?
How is that the best point you've brought up for this whole conversation?
Nice.
In 20 minutes of conversation, Matthew finally made a good point. It's actually a record. Normally it takes him much longer. We love you, Matthew.
Yeah, guys. By the way, let's introduce Gonzalo from Spain. I wanted to do that to him. He gets so mad.
Actually, I don't think I did say. No, I don't think I did say I'm from Portugal.
He's Portugal.
Yeah, we have a lot of cultural diversity over here.
We do. It's all five of us are from different places.
It's true.
Well, let me, since our conversation kind of took a little frenzy turn and we just all relaxed. I think this is the appropriate time to call in for our halfway point, where we have our second segment, which is the breather crimp, which today will be presented by Alex.
Time flew by.
Yes, it does. It does when we're talking about interesting things. So the breather crimp is a segment where we just take a quick breather for our conversation to talk about something cool in magic. And so this week I decided to talk about the general free life entertainment that a lot of magicians have put. I think magic is really one of the communities that has really stepped up to this really weird situation. And I'm going to do a little exception. I'm going to do one shout out for laymen and one shout out for magicians. For magicians, my undeniable shout out is going to be Rick Mao, that he has provided free ebooks with some amazing material. He also put out some poetry ebooks, which are well worth your read. So that is a very strong recommendation. Rick is an amazing person. I said person, not magician. very deliberately. And for layman, I am going to recommend Francis Menotti. He's putting up shows with his wife in their salon. He also does readings of books. And I think it's very entertaining. So if you want a little break and not think too much and hear some great stuff or see some great stuff, head to Francis's Facebook page.
Thank you, Alex. And this is where we're also going to do our own plug for our social media, because we are on social media and we want to interact with you. Now, you can, of course, listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or you can check us out on YouTube. That's youtube.com/ungimmicked. If you want to chat with us, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/ungimmicked, or perhaps the easiest way for all of us would be on Instagram @ungimmicked. We definitely want to hear from you. We want to know how you're enjoying this podcast. We want you on this ride with us all along, not only listening, but also interacting. So make sure you drop by our social media.
And if you have a comment on anything you'd like to hear us talk about, shoot it up in the comments, DM us. That we'd be super interested in hearing what you want to hear about.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
And really quick, Gonzalo, can you just spell ungimmick for everyone?
Ungimmicked. Oh, that is actually
Great
a
point.
good point. Yeah. Ungimmicked is UNGIMMICKED. I
got it.
hope I did it
Why
right.
did you
What's
hesitate?
up there?
You got it.
Why?
Think about
It
it for a
took me a
second. It's
little
not
bit.
easy.
It's not an
Got
easy. I
you.
don't have it written in front of me anywhere. The last plug that I will do before we get on with the second half is for our Patreon. Now, of course, we are just a group of friends having fun, but we would like to keep this going and raise the standards for all of us. If you are on YouTube, it's the only way where you can get video, or on Instagram. I'll probably put this on Instagram. I am recording from inside of my closet because that is the sound studio. Literally, that is the sound studio that I have.
We'll put up on Instagram. We'll put up the picture of the outside of what a studio looks like.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is a beautiful studio. I'm in love with it, but I would also love to be in open air. So check us out, patreon.com/ungimmick. That would be the biggest way you could join us and help us out in this journey. So thank you all. Plugs aside, let's move on to our second half. And I want to start with bringing back a point that Alex made that I found really interesting. You were talking about the birthday party magicians, or the trick magicians. And I think that's where the distinction lies, because what we're talking about, good magic, bad magic, is that we have this standard that's set at an incredibly high bar because we look at magic as art. We want to see magic as art because we want to produce magic as art. A lot of people, as you were saying, Alex, they're doing this because it's their living. It's their way to pay the bills at the end of the month. So it's not, it's almost as if it's a different approach totally to the work of magic, where maybe it's not even meant to be an art anymore. I would love to hear from you, Sanjeev.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. And I know that usually our second half of the podcast is focused more towards, okay, we've presented this problem. We've argued about why this is important and this is urgent that we move towards solving it. So how do we do it, right? We do want to posit solutions rather than simply just pointing out flaws in the system and just accepting them. So I think Gonzalo brings up a really good point in that I think this is a fundamental issue of labels, right? Because even in other art forms, that spectrum has different labels. And within dance, there's so many categories, there's so many different forms, and there's so many clear levels, right? There's many metrics to understand where a person stands, both so that you know how good they are and so that you can set an expectation for them. But with magic, it's just magic. Whether you're seeing that kid show magician, whether you're seeing David Blaine, again, not to harp on kid show magicians, it's just a different style of the craft in a sense, right? But that's the issue. We can't call them both the exact same thing because that sets the same expectations for them, and expectation defines perception. So how would you guys what are you guys' thoughts on that, first of all, and how would you guys approach creating a system where we can kind of deal with that more effectively?
Yeah, wow. I feel like this situation in my life has always come to haunt me. It comes down to the business aspect and it comes down to the art form aspect. And you can really see the situation beyond magic in every field, whether it be film business, so like dance, like sports. really comes down to the business aspect. If you're trying to make money and do this as a living, which by the way, that can also apply to the art form one if it's done correctly. But that's where the divide kind of starts to appear and show itself.
No, I agree with you, and this is something that Asi Wind told me, is that he thinks that birthdays or weddings, those kind of events that he's hired to perform at, are the worst thing for magic. But he likes to eat.
He hates walk around.
So yeah, that's literally how he presented it to me, and it sometimes it does come down to that. We don't have, as artists, it's hard for us to find that platform where we can do our artsy shows and our artsy presentations.
So you did manage to put the Aussie plug in there. Congratulations.
I
We're
just was
giving it
throwing
to
out.
everyone.
Listen, throwing out good names is always, it's never a bad thing.
Absolutely. I mean, for now, our standards are Asiwan and Derek Delgado. Holy shit.
And
No,
that one
seriously,
kid
I-
magician who played at my 8th birthday party, that guy too.
No, I'd like to come back on a couple of things you guys said. First of all, I think there's a lot of like words like we use because we need to express concepts that need to be defined. First of all, we're talking good and bad magic, which in and of itself, pun intended,
Ha.
is a very delicate concept to throw around. Those are strictly opinions, and it's even like hard to label things as good or bad. On another side, not all people want to make art out of magic, and I'm also thinking of the thinkers, and I'm thinking about the newer school of magic, where a lot of people consider art as a craft, and they're not saying craft is better or worse than art. It's just a different way of approaching it, and yeah, so I think we're also using a lot of like concepts, sometimes a little iffy in an iffy way. Might want to rethink our words, but obviously we're just trying to have a spontaneous conversation. There's a couple of things you guys said I disagree with, but I think that's just a matter of opinions. But it's really hard to sort of say, okay, this is good, this is bad. At the end of the day, as you're saying, I'm a walk around guy. Okay, I need to make a living, and there's this term in the magic community that arose that is the worker. That for some people is sort of the ultimate praise, and for some people is almost an insult. Oh, that's worker stuff. People don't really care about that. And for other people like that, those are workers. That's that works, right? You get into a gig, you do your workers, they reset and everything. And the fact that us as magicians don't even really know how to approach that term, it kind of says a lot. We don't ourselves. We don't know how to do all that. So imagine laymen. Like, how can they know all of this? I'm sorry, these were really confused thoughts, but I think you got the gist of it.
But it comes back to what Sanjeev was saying, is that we don't have labels for it. And the labels that we have are ambiguous. We can't
Yeah.
agree, and we don't know exactly how to label it ourselves. So you said it perfectly. Well, how will laymen feel? Because, and talking about good and bad magic, of course, it's any time you say good or bad is touchy. What I was trying to say, I'll try to make it a little bit more clear, is that we have that standard for magic, that good magic should be art. At least I feel like from the months of conversations that we've had, good magic should have an art aspect associated with it. Matt,
that's
I'm
opinion.
trying
There you
I'm
go.
trying to
Yeah,
I'm
no,
trying
the
to
thing is,
touch it
though,
because I see Matthew's
magic
face.
It's either art, or it could be artistic entertainment, or it could be entertaining art. It's a lot of
Yeah,
things.
exactly. And so many people have tried to put labels saying, oh no, I'm not a magician, I'm an entertainer. Oh no, I'm something
Oh,
else.
yeah.
And I think that in
Mhm.
the end, it's done sloppily, so it does more harm than good. But the action of saying, okay, what am I, is a very interesting one.
Yeah, when we're defining good magic, it's sort of like when you see a magic show. Um, the biggest emotion, it's sort of like, dang, I cared about that. I'm
Yeah.
so happy it went about that. I think that could be, I think I agree with Alex. Maybe he agrees with me. I really hope he does, because I'm kind of scared of him at this point. But, but that it's supposed to be not just entertaining, but the people care. Bad magic is when people are like, oh, it fooled me. I don't know how he does it, but I don't care. It was dumb.
An entertainer shows you what you want to see. An artist shows you what you don't know you want to see.
Ah.
Deep.
On that note,
That
just
was
end the
not mine, just to be
podcast.
clear.
Okay,
Alex is
we need
practicing
to
his sales
go.
skills.
No, this I read again recently in an old book, and I think it's absolutely true. And you know what? Because I have the pro here, I just want to bring one last point I think is important. I think in the end, it's your job to define that expectation. People see you, you tell them you're a magician, people react, good, bad, surprised, intrigued, whatever. You know what? show them what it's about. Show you what you're about. Like, it's not about, you're here and you can defy their expectation, their barriers, their preconceptions. So do it. Do artsy thing. Do workers. Do whatever you do as magic. And now you're not about that magician. You are Alex, you're Sanjeev, you're whoever that did their
Yeah.
interpretation of magic. In the end, I think that's all that matters.
Just to add on that, I think we definitely have to remember that a lot of this falls on us. And it's very easy, I think, to use the excuse that, oh, the public perception of magic is that they want tricks, that they want entertainment. So I might as well give that to them because that's what they want, right? And it's not always phrased in that way. It's sometimes phrased in even more innocuous ways, like, oh, you need to open with magic because that's what people are there to see. That's all you have to do. Or just any piece of advice that almost pedestalizes the magic that the people want over what you want to do. I think that mindset inherently is difficult. And to elaborate on that, I think we're gonna have to make sacrifices, right? We can't have that multi-million TikTok following, that multi-million Instagram following, and get a lot of money and do only the gigs that we want, right? If you want to do a higher form of art, again, it's art, which means, just going by Alex's definition, people don't know that they want to see it, which means they're not paying tons of money for it, which means they're not super hyped up going into your performances. You're going to have to set that bar. And so I think we're going to have to accept that, okay, we can't have everything. If I want to do art, I'm going to have to give up maybe some entertainment factor, maybe some of the wow factor, maybe some of the, wow, I'm so rich and famous factor.
Yeah, here's something I noticed. Maybe y'all can disagree with me on this. People feel the passion. People can feel the effort. People can feel the love that you put into it. Maybe something implicitly we were trying to express with all these labels you were talking about is you can see when people are doing stuff not at its full potential. If you're doing stuff that's the workers, then since the material is solid already, bring yourself into it. Do what you can to make the performance as entertaining, as funny, as emotional, as artistic as possible. Or if, shoot, sorry, someone called me. Or if I totally lost my train of thought there. That's my bad. But I feel
you know
like
what?
you guys
I'm going to
got my
agree
point.
with you. I couldn't agree more. And I think the discussions we had about art, there's one thing I put in the center of everything, and that's intent. Your intent is the most important thing. And no matter if you're doing shows, gigs, walk around, just stupid tricks, the only thing that matters is how genuine you are to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're sort of getting to the close of it. Here's maybe one question I want to ask is, how do you think we want to present this magic?
Well, I think that's an answer that comes down to each and every one of us.
So I guess in a sense, we're not setting the standard to good magic and bad magic. We're setting it to authentic magic and inauthentic magic.
And
I think that
effort being
framework
put in.
makes it's almost an extension, right? When
passion.
you care about something, you end up spending so much time on it.
Well, authentic
Look
is
at our
just real. That's right.
quarantines,
You're
right?
absolutely right. Authentic is real, but also you have passion. You can feel the love out of certain performances. And people can feel when it's an authentic performance.
Yeah, good point.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. The greatest achievement I think we got out of this whole podcast is I made a point that Alex agreed with.
Nice.
There you go.
I'm not here to systematically disagree. I'm here to put in opinions, and they often contradict some of yours. But hey, you know what? That's part of the
Often would be
game.
an
Yeah.
understatement, but we'll take it.
Alex, you were talking and you said for a point that you were saying that you disagreed with stuff, and like I wanted to hear what you disagreed with, but
Yeah,
we ended
you
up
just
moving
stop
on. And like,
there.
Oh
if
yeah,
you're
and you
gonna
know what?
say
And
it,
I
if you're gonna
realized that
disagree, just
because
go
I
for it,
forgot.
like-
I forgot because
Oh.
there was like multiple points made in what you said, and I forgot which one I wanted to delve in. I would have been too messy, and I think I've started enough in this podcast. I didn't want to make a bigger fool out of myself.
No, he was just bringing his point, but he also wanted to mention he disagreed with us.
You just wanted to say, just so you know, I didn't
General
disagree. But
sentiment.
You know what?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worth explaining why you disagree. Sometimes I don't think it's worth. I think here we need to keep track of our subject, and I don't think something that's opinion based. Like when Sanjeev says, in the end, we're setting our like, what do we want to do? Well, yeah, I mean, everyone has his own answer, and we can bring and sort of conflict our answers. Is that going to change your way of seeing yourself and your relationship to magic?
That's true.
Some debates aren't
We
worth
love it.
having.
That's a great point.
I think our bottom line then is that labeling the different aspects of magic instead of lumping it into one big magic category would help both magicians and laymen in distinguishing the art. I'll bring it back to what Alex said in the beginning. You wouldn't necessarily put a graffiti artist or Picasso, or let's say Banksy and Picasso in the same group. They, even though they do the same art of painting, they are very different. I think that would help everybody, and it would help the art in being I don't know that word in English. Multifaceted.
Faceted.
Multifaceted.
Yes,
Yes, see, I got it.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But thank God we have a linguistics major here. Wow.
Yeah, that's my
What
job.
would we do
That's
without
my
you?
job.
So-
If ever you guys need equations, I'm here.
Yeah.
Alex, when's the last time someone needed equate?
Well, they're gonna say what's good magic, and then Alex is gonna say yeah, actually, and then he's gonna give a long thing.
A little plot there. And you know what? I'm going to bring this back to something productive. Fernando Figueras in his lecture has actual plots talking about emotions and things, and everyone here should look into that. That is an extra
Fernando
for you.
Figueras.
Extra recommended for the people that actually listen to the
Yeah.
podcast until the very end.
There
They
you
get
go.
the extra
Fernando
recommendation.
Figueras, and
Yeah.
you can get his at the table lecture for like $5
I'm writing
on
that
Murphy's
down.
Magic, and everyone should get it. Everyone. I don't care if
Sounds
you're
great, okay.
he's a mentalist. If you're a card guy, look at that lecture. If you're a coin guy, look at that lecture.
So Alex, say his name once again for the
So
podcast.
that would be Fernando Figueras, and that is spelled Figueras. Figueras.
Yes,
Alright.
that is
Like
how you
Ungimmicked.
spell it. Like, well, to finish off, we have our last segment, which we are calling the Assembly. Today will be presented by Connor. So take it away.
Yes, the assembly. So here we're just going to recommend something non-magical that you guys should look into. So I thought I'd recommend my favorite movie, Whiplash. I mean, listen, this
Ooh.
is like totally subjective. I think it's the best movie of all time, but I have not seen Pulp Fiction. But I think the message is there, and there's a really strong quote in that movie that says, "There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job." And that changed my life. That movie changed my life. Definitely go in, watch it. It's streaming on Vudu, YouTube, iTunes, and the Google Play and Movies. It's $3.99, just like going to Blockbuster, right? Definitely look into it.
Blockbuster. That was a
Blockbuster.
trip to the past.
Just like-
Oh my god.
And that quote that you just brought up could be an entire
wow.
podcast.
yeah, that is something
That should be the
entirely
next
different.
episode, yeah.
That should be the next. Then I'm writing an essay on it. I'm already ready
Oh,
for
yeah.
the book, guys.
We'll be
Wow.
ready for it. Thank you, Connor.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us for the first ever Ungimmicked. Once again, our final plug for our social media. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/Ungimmicked. If you want to watch this podcast and actually see our faces and my studio,
Yes, the closet.
I am in love with
The
my
Cloud
studio. I'll
with
keep
the cheetah
mentioning
print in
it.
the background.
That you can go to YouTube, youtube.com/Ungimmicked. Best way to interact with us would be by far Instagram. That's @Ungimmicked. Or if you're really feeling it, go to Patreon and check us out. Patreon.com/Ungimmicked. That's UNGIMMICKED. Hopefully
it.
I said it right.
You never say the
Yo,
D.
I
You
just want to
always say
mention something.
ungimmick.
That last segment, the assembly, it used to be called the ambitious card because we end on top, and then we all collectively realized how horrible of an idea that was.
Just like
Because of the
Who was that
It's a
joke
five.
from? Was it Matthew or Gonzalo?
I don't.
Yeah, it was
I
me.
wasn't
It was
the
me.
so-
I
Who's
have
gonna?
to.
Okay, Gonzalo's taking the heat
yeah.
here.
Yo,
I will take the
put
heat.
that look on my
I
back.
deserve it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me here on the call.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you all soon. This was Ungimmicked.